Turns out, Daniel, no one wants to play AAA games on their iPhone.
No, they don't. Nobody wants to play like Assassin's Creed Mirage with touch controls, you know.
Turns out the thing that no one was asking for, the reason they weren't asking for it is not because they just didn't know they wanted it.
Right.
It's just they knew they didn't want
Which
it.
is the case sometimes. And with Apple specifically, they have a history, if you look through their history, of like maybe giving us things we didn't know we wanted.
Yeah.
Like the iPhone, right? But this ain't that.
No.
Tim Apple.
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar of this, basically what has happened is very recently, within the last year, we've gotten a number of big AAA games come to the iPhone, and they're playable on iPhone, which is bizarre. And apparently, Apple is funding these ports to be done to iPhone. It's not just like Capcom or, whoever else is Ubisoft, whoever's putting these out. It's not like they're just really thinking that they have they think that there's an untapped market.
No, it's not that.
Apple thinks, hey, you should put your game on our phone.
Well, I mean, gaming on Mac, has never really been much of a thing.
No.
And I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe Apple at some point kind of missed out on some of that. But I don't know. Maybe it's too little too late. And also, they're going about it kind of weird because, well, I mean, it's not like it's not playable on new MacBooks.
No.
So maybe they're not. But
It's just
I just think it's
also
very odd.
It is very odd because we're specifically talking about the iPhone versions, the iOS versions of these games, right? Not not just
I guess
the
so.
Mac versions of these games.
I don't think the Mac version's beating the doors off anything either. But
I don't either. But specifically, we're talking about the iOS version of these. So the games that have come out so far have been. This isn't an entirely the list, but the big ones are Resident Evil 4. The remake, Resident Evil Village, Death Stranding, and Assassin's Creed Mirage. There may be another game or two that I don't know about, but those are the ones that I definitely know have come to iPhone. And we have the sales numbers on those, or at least estimates on sales numbers. And it turns out not very good. Really low numbers, like exceedingly low numbers.
Yeah, they're quite low. Now, they are estimates, and there's two. We can put this. I don't know if you want to put this on screen or not. I don't want to speak for post here, but there's two different I don't know what you want to call this. Is this like there's a thing called App Figures and a thing called App Magic, and they're estimating sales numbers.
I think it's like different sources of how they
different
estimate.
sources, exactly. So RE4, according to App Figures, has only sold like 7,000 units. App Magic says about 15,000. RE Village is about 5,750. According to App Figures, it's 34,000 according to App Magic. Assassin's Creed Mirage is a whopping 3,000 according to App Figures and 5,750 according to App Magic. Death Stranding, which seems to be the bigger seller, I guess, is 10,600 according to App Figures and 23,000 according to App Magic.
Yeah. So these, we're talking nothing has even come close to cracking 50,000, which would be an utter, obviously this isn't the only place these games are sold, but if it was, it would be considered an extreme flop or just any console. Like say you looked at like a game like Resident Evil 4, and let's say Resident Evil 4 sold only 7,000 units on Xbox. We'd be like, well, Xbox is dead, y'all. No one's playing games on Xbox anymore.
Right. But these also aren't new, so it's like these games, like they've kind of already had their life. They're like big surge,
Kind of. I think it's a little telling that the oldest game on that list that was one that sold the best.
Well, that is true. That is telling and odd. I think that's odd too, because like RE4 is the one that I would think would, and it's also it's in second place, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I guess
Like
it's
Death
something
Stranding.
about these iPhone people. They love walking simulators. I don't know.
Honestly, it may be the game that is the best to play on iPhone because it is one of the least actiony of all those games. It's the one that you probably could like play on a smaller screen. It may be okay of an experience. I don't know. Here's the thing. You know what? Let's read some things because I have some things to say, and I'm sure it's going to come in on the comments. Okay. So let's start things off. We got a comment from Celeria Rose.
Actually, not trying to take the wind out of your sails here, but we should probably do the poll first.
Oh, we should absolutely do the poll first.
We don't know anybody who's played these damn games on their phone.
Right.
But we wondered if y'all did. So we asked, have you purchased and played any of these iOS ports of AAA games? And at 4%, you said yes. And at 96%, you said no.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if even that 4%, some of those people may have like played the demo and put yes and not, read the question very well.
Or they misclicked.
Yeah. Maybe some misclicks on this.
Language barriers could have played a role like this. There's a lot of explanations for why we got a whopping 4%.
I think that even 4% is probably more than actually have bought one of these AAA games and played it on their iPhone.
Probably.
And the thing is, this is where I'm getting into, this is where we should read the comments, because I have some thoughts, and I'm sure the comments are going to say the same thing I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on to Slurry Rose. The only iOS ports of games I've played are Dragon Quest 1 through 6, and that's mostly just due to the availability. Usually if a game is available on a system I own that isn't iOS, I prefer that. Though I've occasionally considered the Divinity Original Sin 2 port for the ease of playing it on my tablet, though never really jumped on that one over just playing the version I already own.
Yeah, and then I included Landon Stallings' response here just because I thought it was interesting. So he said, same, it's exactly how I was introduced to Dragon Quest back in 2020. And the reason I thought that was interesting is because that's about the only version of playing any sort of AAA or first party game on iOS I can think of is like, maybe you're playing an old game like a Dragon Quest, or maybe Divinity Original Sin 2, or Chrono Trigger. Our friend Dan plays, he has the iOS port of Chrono Trigger. That might be a reason to play a game on your phone. It's another way that it's being exposed to you. You've always got your phone with you. Mm-hmm. And the older games are probably easier to play with the touchscreen.
Right. I think older games make a lot more sense because it feels more like you're having, more like you have a handheld emulator, as opposed to a console.
Right.
And those are very different experiences. They're good for different types of games. And we all know that handheld emulators are really great for playing some older games. Mm-hmm. So I could see a game like, what were we talking about here?
Dragon Quest, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah. Like Dragon Quest, I could see that being a game that would be great to play on your phone because, one, you can play it in small bursts. It's probably a game, they're longer games, they're RPGs, so you could play them in small bits over a month or two, just gradually knocks them out.
Yeah. And RPGs in general, I think, are good for a touchscreen because they're not time sensitive and action.
Especially turn-based RPGs, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but none of these new games we're talking about, none of those really make sense to be played on an iPhone.
They really don't.
No.
They really don't. You could have brought something like, I don't know. I think Persona might have been a neat choice, because that's a turn-based RPG that people love. Mm-hmm. Dragon Quest 11. Maybe you try to bring something like that. Maybe you look at Square and you're like, can we use 3 or 4 of your 1,000 HD 2D remakes?
Right, something like that.
I don't know, but this just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. We got another comment from Bobbity. Bobbity says, only thing I'm playing on my phone is Delta and PPSSPP. Both work great and give me that handheld itch some of these bigger, beefy handhelds since the Switch don't give me. Mm-hmm. There you go. So we just recently got the ability to play these emulators natively on iPhone without workarounds. You can get it from the App Store.
Yep. And I didn't know PPSSPP was on there.
I didn't either. I mean, I haven't really paid. I know, when we first got the announcement, it was always who's going to make it first, and we established.
It was always who's going to make it first, and when do we get RetroArch? That was the question.
Yeah.
And now we have RetroArch, but I didn't know that PPSSPP is on there. That's a good PSP emulator, and that's the one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of stopped paying attention to it after I downloaded Delta. I still haven't tried it because I just don't know that I'm in the right market to be playing emulated games on my phone. Mm-hmm. One, I already feel like I spend way too much time on my phone anyway. I know it's just a different thing, but just being on my phone, it's going to be really hard for me to focus and not want to swipe off and go check this or check that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas if I have a device that doesn't do that in my hand, I'm going to be much less tempted to do that.
Definitely. I definitely prefer having a dedicated gaming thing.
Yes.
Like yesterday we were doing a gig and I had my little emulator in my pocket, and every now and then I'd play a little Super Mario Bros. 2, on a set break and whatnot. I could have totally played that on my phone, but that's not fun. That's not as fun to me. You
No.
know, it also doesn't give me any of the nostalgia itch
No,
that
no.
like a handheld device does.
No, I mean, like, I absolutely agree with you, but there's just something about like being on my phone overall that makes me just kind of not want to do it. It's like it's on my phone. I don't want to be playing games on my phone, just
Yeah.
in general. And maybe hopefully we're getting a wave of that. It's not just me. Hopefully, like the world, kind of like how people gradually got off of like cigarettes, thinking they were cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we're kind of moving towards that with our phones as well. I'm hoping. I know for sure I am. That's been a recent thing for me.
So you want there to be like a societal shift towards like screw phones?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, just like, yeah, basically, not
And
screw
do you
phones.
think you're actually seeing that, or do you just hope that happens?
I hope. I'm more hoping, but I'm not the only one. But
Oh, you're definitely not the only. I think everybody knows like spending too much time on your phone is unproductive at a minimum, right?
unproductive, yes.
At a minimum, and unhealthy, at worst.
Yeah, or majorly unhealthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know that we're heading that way.
Yeah. So there's this, but still, I think those negative connotations of playing on my phone makes it just a little less
Yeah.
interesting to me.
I agree with you. I'd rather have something dedicated.
100%. 100%.
All right, we got another comment here from Legacy Squid. This is a very important squid. The squid has a legacy. Anyway, Legacy said, yes, I've played RE Village on iPhone 15 Pro Max for a little bit. It's actually pretty good and runs pretty solid, but I have no use playing these games on iPhone since I have a Steam Deck. It's a cool option for people who don't have any sort of gaming device.
Yeah. And I think there's two big things on this. I want to touch on the last thing first, which is it's an option for people who have no other gaming device. And I think that is probably the only people who might benefit from this.
Yes, but it is going to be such a small market. Because
Such a small market.
What kind of person has no gaming device, but then it wants to play one of these very few select titles bad enough to play it on their phone? Like,
Almost
what
nobody.
person has no way to play a video game, but then all of a sudden is like, holy shit, I want to play Resident Evil Village.
Right.
Like in line at the grocery store.
I would say that the Venn diagram of people who want to play Resident Evil Village and people who do not have a way of playing Resident Village, they don't overlap.
They almost
much
don't
at all.
They're basically two circles.
Yeah.
They are two separate circles.
I can't imagine anyone being like just willing to pay the price that it costs to buy these games on an iPhone to play them, but is not willing to buy some sort of console. Whether that, you can play Resident Evil Village cloud version on the Switch. You can play it on an Xbox Series S for just like, sometimes those things are on sale for under $200. You know what I mean? Like,
You can play a cloud version on your phone.
right.
Like, you don't have to have the native version at all, but
Yeah, it's just wild, man.
it's so weird.
I just don't know. Yeah, I just think that, and that's why we have numbers like it's only sold a couple thousand units. Of course, it's only sold a couple thousand. There's the amount of people who are willing to do this is such a small number. No one, because the thing is, it's not like, okay, let's say I bought Resident Evil Village on the PlayStation 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's say
If it came
even
with,
though you didn't, you bought it on the Series X.
did I? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know where I bought it.
I was just trying to.
Oh, you were just saying, you were being hypothetical. Let's just say I buy the game, though, on console. And then if it came with like a code to, you also own a version of it on iPhone. You know what? Then I might try it.
Yeah.
But there's
Just
no way
for science, though.
I'm going to buy it on console and then also buy it on iPhone.
Yeah. No
Okay?
way.
And there is sure as hell no way I'm just going to buy it on iPhone.
No.
Like, no way.
Now, let me put on your tinfoil hat.
Okay.
I want to propose a future to you.
Okay.
Okay. You guys, some of y'all know I'm a big fan of a small kind of franchise called Star Wars. And in Star Wars, everybody's got a droid, right? Not an android, a droid. And these droids do like everything. You can look at your droid and be like, do this, and all of a sudden it can like repair a circuit board. Or you can be like, translate this, and it translates languages, right? It does everything. It's a do everything device. In the future, what if your phone is the do everything device? For some reason, nobody else is making consoles. We're just all putting shit on our phones. Mm-hmm. And it's a do everything, like play everything. Like this is what you do everything on. You know, you can wirelessly cast it to any screen you're around. You can use a controller, but it's your phone. That's about the only damn way you get my money on this.
Yeah.
Is what I was getting at.
Yeah, like...
You have to take away all my other options.
Yes, you have to take them away. And then I think even at that point, I think people would still probably prefer to have... It's kind of like...
But we don't have those other things in this hypothetical
In the
future.
hypothetical,
They don't
right.
exist.
I know. I see what you're saying. But it is really interesting like that. We're kind of talking about that, like... We talked about having the dedicated handheld over playing it on iPhone. Mm-hmm. You know, we've seen this happen time and time again. The more like all-in-one things become, the less interesting it is to have those things.
Yeah.
Like that's why, you know, we saw the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, like those devices were the first ones that started to pitch themselves as the all-in-one entertainment devices, right?
Well, the PS2 could play DVDs, bro.
True. But, you know, it wasn't an all-in-one. It didn't have all your streaming. It didn't have your YouTube. It didn't have, like, your one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And then we saw Xbox, with the Xbox One, go really hard into that.
Yeah.
And it has not worked for them. And I think that is what, you know, a phone has basically become. It's your all-in-one device. It can do everything that you want it to do. Now it can even play AAA games.
Yeah.
It's cool that it's powerful enough to do it, but we're going to see a pushback against that. People aren't that interested in that anymore. They want these curated, specific devices that do the one thing, you know? That's like yesterday we were at a gig. We saw a group of youngins. They were probably college age, a whole bunch of them.
Bunch of youngins.
I noticed that
Street youths.
they were not taking pictures with their phones. Did you notice they had disposable cameras? They were taking pictures with disposable cameras.
No, I did not notice that. I thought you were going to talk about the group of guys we saw playing hacky sack.
Oh, they were playing hacky sack.
Because that's also a much healthier alternative.
They were taking pictures with old-fashioned disposable cameras. And I'm like, that is the kind of stuff that we're seeing now that we're in the world of your phone does everything.
Yeah.
It's not interesting anymore. You can get much better pictures with your phone than you can with an old disposable camera.
Definitely.
But you lose the novelty. You lose the cool factor. And I think that...
It's like why vinyls are,
Exactly.
you know, kind of
100%.
having a little bit of a resurgence, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, Grandpa.
It just feels different, and it feels like you own it. Even if you pay $60 for a game on iPhone, it's not going to feel like you own that game.
Right.
It just will not.
You know, I experienced something kind of like what you just described at school before we got out for the summer. Like on the last day, one of these other teachers that I work with came up to me and was like, Daniel, let's take a picture. And I was like, shit, I see you. Well, I'll teach next door to you. Like, why do you need a picture? You know, like, I don't want to take a picture. I was like immediately like a contrarian about it. I was trying to clean my room out. Like, leave me alone, you know? And then she was like, no, I brought a Polaroid.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got a Polaroid camera? Let's take a picture.
So cool,
You know,
right?
it like changed. It did. It made it a cooler thing to do. It made it, because you get it, like Polaroids are just cool. But
Yeah.
disposable cameras, I don't even know where you get one of those developed these days. Can you still go to like Walgreens and?
Yeah, you can. Yep,
Okay.
you can. And so, heck, I'm just saying, like, I do think that it's going to be more and more prevalent, that we're going to see people continue to go back to devices that only have one purpose, and it's to do the thing that they do. Even if it's not the best, even if it's not the most convenient,
Yeah.
it just is cooler.
Well, that's, you know, that fills me with a little bit of hope, because all those things, like, we have nostalgia for all those things. You know, it's not just cameras. I can't even think of them, but like there are plenty of things that the phone has phased out.
And these were people significant, like yesterday with the camera thing, they were much younger than us. And they didn't even probably grow up with disposable cameras, at least, you know, maybe in their early childhood.
Right.
But even, you know.
They were using archaic technology they'd never even seen.
Right. It was, really.
It would be like us chiseling a self-portrait out of granite.
No, I don't think it would be that bad. But it might be like us using, like, even Polaroids were out of fashion by the time we were kids.
Yeah,
we
they
were
were.
kids, you know?
Yeah.
We had a Polaroid camera when I was a little kid. We never used it. I remember thinking that thing was ancient.
My dad had a Polaroid, and
Yeah.
I remember, like, I did not think there was anything cool about it.
No. Right. Okay. Well, we got one more comment here. This one's from Tim Despair Bear,
Despair Bear.
who said, no, I tried the demos, but I'm not going to sit there on my phone and play a AAA game.
Yeah,
Yep.
that about sums it up, Despair Bear. Also, your profile picture is badass. I love it. I love the little two-faced bear. Clearly, that's the despair bear.
That's the despair bear. That's Tim Despair Bear.
I love that.